Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Asmad Gurubhyo Namaha Shruti Smriti Puranaanamayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Guru Atmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Om Shri Medha Dakshina Murti Swamine Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. So namaste once again to all of you.
Say Guruji.
Yeah. So in the last few classes we saw some topics which are not directly related to Tattva Bodha but which are very important for us to understand and keep it at the back of our mind, because whenever a reference comes it will be useful for us to recall that knowledge that we have gained. So now we come to Tattva Bodha. Now Tattva Bodha is an introductory text and it is generally prescribed at the initial stages of Vedanta study by Vedanta study by a student who is serious about this study and who is very keen to learn the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and even Bhagavatam. Yeah, Bhagavatam also contains all these Vedanta messages only. Right? So all these scriptural texts can be studied and understood very well if one goes through Tattva Bodha in the initial stage, in the beginning. And as the very title of this text shows, Tattva Bodha. Bodha means knowledge. Tattva means, in this context, the meaning is reality. So Tattva Bodha means the knowledge of the reality. Knowledge we can easily understand. But what is this reality we are talking about is a question. For example, what is the reality of an ocean? If you ask that, reality of an ocean is water. Ocean is nothing but a name and form of a body of water. So the content or the reality of an ocean is water. Similarly, the reality of ornaments is what? Gold. If it is gold ornaments, don't say silver also is possible. Gold ornaments, reality is gold. Names like necklace, bangle and all are all names and forms of the gold, which is the reality. These are all only names and forms of the gold. Another example we can take, the mirage which we see in a desert. From a distance, it looks like a body of water, isn't it? We have seen, those of you who have seen the movie, I mean, I'm talking about the old timers, the Lawrence of Arabia, beautifully that mirage shot is there. So this mirage, what is the reality of the mirage? Sand. Even though from a distance, it appears like water. So, when we are talking about Tattva Bodha reality, knowledge of the reality, what reality we are talking about? Reality of what are we talking about is the question. The answer to that is, we are talking about the reality of the self, the individual. my reality. What am I? That is what we are talking about when we say Tattva Bodha. Right? So the real or a true nature of oneself, which is the real self, is the meaning of the word Tattva in this context. Right? So Tattva Bodha in short means self-knowledge, knowledge of the self, the individual, about ourselves. Right? Now the next question will be, why should I get this self-knowledge? What is it going to benefit? Do I get any benefit from this self-knowledge? Because there is a saying in Sanskrit, prayojanam anuddishya mandhopina pravartate. Without purpose, even a dim-witted person will not undertake any activity. Forget about intelligent people. Even a person who is dim-witted, he will not undertake any activity. If you ask him to do anything, he will say, what will I get out of it? What is the purpose? Why should I do this? So we have to understand the purpose of this self-knowledge or Tattva Bodha. Right? And the second question is, where do I get this self-knowledge? One is, what is the purpose of this self-knowledge? And second question is, where do I get it? Or we can put it this way, what do I gain? And where do I get it? First, we will see the what do we gain, the answer to that question. Right? In fact, when we go into the Tattva Bodha text, the purpose and also the gain that we will get is very, very nicely expounded in the text. But Swami Paramarthananda, in his talks on Tattva Bodha, gives 5 benefits of this knowledge of the self, which are very profound. So I would like to share the thoughts of Swami Paramarthananda with you all. So he talks about 5 benefits. We will see them one by one. The first one, he says, is Jignasa Nivrittihi. Nivrittihi means the satisfaction, fulfillment, you can call it, of what? Jignasa. The Jignasa means a natural curiosity which all of us have in our minds right from our childhood. And every human being, because of his advanced intellect, as compared to other living beings, which we have seen in the initial class, how human birth is glorified in our scriptures. Every human being has a natural curiosity to know about things which are around him, isn't it? And this natural curiosity expresses itself in a sort of an exploration tendency. Wherever we go, we tend to look around, see what are all things are there. In fact, who are all present, including people, right? Which is this place I have come to? All those things, even especially when we go to a mall, curiosity to know everything which is around. In fact, I shouldn't say this, but I will venture. Ladies have got more curiosity about this, and I consider that as a very plus point, because men, they are very like hearts with that closed eyes. They will have some idea, this is what I want to buy. They will straight away go buy that and come away. They won't see here and there what is there and all. But ladies, it's always useful to take ladies to. They will go through all the shelves and find out what are all things are there. And then some of them may be useful also. So we will end up getting those useful things. So this curiosity is there in the human being, right? And It is this curiosity which is responsible for the constant increase in the human knowledge. Once upon a time, we will have curiosity, but we will not know where to seek that knowledge. Today, it is all very easy. Googlaya Namaha, you do, and then you get answers to so many questions that you have. Isn't it? So, the entire humanity, if you see the history of humanity, it has always explored. Exploration of new continents, exploration of the seas, exploration of beneath the seas, exploration of the space. What drives them to do that? Curiosity, to know more and more and more. What is there? What is there? That is the curiosity which drives the human being, right? Under the ocean, what flora is there? Fauna. In fact, earlier on, I don't know now, I don't watch TV, but this Animal Planet, I think there is a serial. In old days, some other serials used to come, beautiful serials. Rather. They under the ocean, they do exploration and find out new things. We can't even imagine such things are there under the ocean. So this is the tendency. It has been there with the humankind right from the beginning. The development of any civilization, if you see, is based upon this curiosity, getting additional knowledge, and then using that knowledge for a betterment of our own life. So this is the first benefit, which is this, jigyasa nivrittihi. And in this quest, in this curiosity, we come to another dimension. I mean, those people who have a little bit more curious, raised intellect, they will have a different set of questions. They will have questions like, what is this creation? How did this creation start? Is there somebody called as the creator for this universe? Is there a God? If there is a God, where is he? And why did he create this world? And why did he create me, the poor me, and dumped me into this world? Isn't it? When did the life start in this world? Did I have a past birth? What will happen to me after my death? Where do I go after I die? Really, is it the end? In fact, this is a question which Nachiketa asks Yamaraja in Kathopanishad. Right in the beginning, he asked this question. When I die, whether, is it the end of this, my life, or is the life continues after the death? So these questions are all there. Do I survive after death? And these questions can be endless. And when these questions get answered, when we get satisfactory answers, convincing answers for these questions, what happens? We get a satisfaction. In fact, there is a happiness when we get this. Isn't it? And when there is a more developed intellect, there is a curiosity to know about this world. And ultimately, this all boils down to know more about one's own self. That is what finally it boils down. So in fact, if you look at it, there is, if you actually classify all these questions, all these curiosities, it can be classified into three. There is a curiosity to know about this Jagat. Jagat means everything that we experience in this world or in this cosmos. Not the world, it's the entire cosmos, it's Prapancha. There is a curiosity to know that. Then there is a curiosity to know about God, Ishvara. What is God? Where is God? Why is God? All these questions, how is God? All these questions There is a curiosity to know that. What is religion? All those things. And most importantly, there is a very high curiosity to know about the self. Who am I? That question always bothers us. So, three, Jagat, Ishvara, and Jiva, the self. There is a curiosity to know all these three entities. And this natural curiosity is what is called jignasa in Sanskrit. Jnatum icha jignasa. A desire, a keen desire to know. That is what is called jignasa. Okay. So as I said, the maximum curiosity is to know about oneself. Am I a free individual? Or is my life governed by some other forces which are not visible to me, which I cannot control? How come certain things happen in my life even though I have not planned for it? And how come even after planning and doing everything correctly, certain things I am not able to achieve? What is the reason? What goes wrong? And such questions are there. We don't get answers from our parents. When we are young, we can ask these questions only to our parents. We don't get answers from our parents because they themselves do not know the answers to these questions. So from where they will give answers to us rather. And as we grow up, we become adults. We become busy with our job and things like that and all. Setting up our own life, family. And we are unable to find the answers in our preoccupation with all the worldly affairs. So while these questions are there and they are kept aside, never answered, the curiosity never goes away. That never wanes. Because Swami Paramatmananda gives another example. He says in the classroom, suppose the teacher one fine day keeps one box in the center of the classroom covered with a cloth. Students all come in. They see that box covered with a tablecloth or whatever it is. You know what will happen throughout the class, the students will be curious to know what is there in that box. They will not be attentive in the class at all. So this, until that curiosity is satisfied, they know what it is there, this question in their mind will continue to bother them. To the extent that they will even neglect what they are supposed to do in the class, listen to the teaching. Right? So this indicates that a human being cannot withstand ignorance. Ignorance always drives us to explore more and more and more. And if you actually look at it, the flip side of all this curiosity for knowledge is nothing but ignorance. Because I don't know, I go for that knowledge. And the knowledge, ignorance of the knowledge of the self is the worst ignorance that we can have. Because that ignorance of the self is what causes all our miseries in our life. All troubles, all miseries. Those of you who attended my last class in Vishnu Sahasranamam, I tried to explain this Jivas, this Janma Samsara Bandhana. It is this ignorance of the self which is the cause for this bandhana, this bondage of Janma and this Samsara. So the questions like who am I, why I am here, what is my destination, am I in the right direction or not? All these questions, when they are answered, that is what is jigyasa nivritti. So this is the first benefit. By studying the scriptures, the Tattva Bodha and all, starting with Tattva Bodha, we will get answers to all these questions, especially questions about one's own self. Now, the second benefit is Vidyananda Praptihi, he says. What is this? Praptihi means gaining or attaining. Vidya means knowledge. Ananda means happiness, joy. Right? So when the jigyasa nivritti takes place, when we get answers, satisfactory answers to all our questions, there is a joy we get. A joy which we get because of the knowledge that we have gained. It's a great joy, I can tell you. Those of you who are used to solving crossword puzzles, they would have experienced this joy. When you get there is a clue, and when you get the right word and it matches in the square box, exactly what a joy they get. So this knowledge which we get is the source of lot of joy, experiential happiness. But that experiential happiness is what we call Vidyananda Praptihi, Ananda Praptihi, because of the Vidya we gain. And this joy, even there are so many stories which are there, how people got. In fact, the most significant story we have seen is the story of that guy. What was his name? Eureka. Who was that? I'm forgetting his name.
Archimedes.
Archimedes, when he discovered this, what is that? The principle of buoyancy or water,
Dispension of water.
Displacement. That principle, when he discovered, it is said that he ran out of his house into the streets naked from the bathtub, He forgot that he had not even put on a dress. That was the joy, ecstasy that he was enjoying. That is this Vidyananda Prapti. So we can get many examples for this Vidyananda Prapti, right? And once we discover our true nature, when that knowledge we get, you can imagine what kind of a joy we will have. Because this answer to this question, who am I, is very difficult to get. It's not very easy. You have to read a lot. You have to study a lot. Because nobody knows. Only Mahatmas knows. In fact, Mahatmas also, they should have the capability to tell you, to teach you. If you had gone to Ramana Maharshi and asked about self, he will say, go and ask yourself, who am I? And then meditate on who am I, you will get the answer. That doesn't help. Because if we sit and close our eyes and say, who am I, who am I, who am I? We may get a background, sitting, you are an idiot, sitting like this and closing your eyes instead of doing all your other jobs. Isn't it? So you have to study, and when you study, you get the knowledge. That happiness that you get when you get that knowledge of the self is the greatest happiness that you get. That is the true Vidyananda Prapti. Even though all other knowledge also, whenever you get, and when your jigyasa is satisfied, your curiosity is satisfied, you still get happiness. But the happiness you get when you get the knowledge of the self is a very, very high, exalted kind of happiness. Right? And this knowledge, a feature of this knowledge is knowledge is permanent. Once you get your knowledge, it will never go away. We may forget, but forgetting is not knowledge going away. Many times it happens to us, isn't it? We know something, and then it is there in our mind, but at a given moment, we are unable to recall it. We will struggle. Then we'll tell the people, I know the answer. It is at the tip of my tongue. Give me a second. I will just find out. And when you recall it, what is the joy you get? So knowledge doesn't go away at all. It is permanent. Once you gain the knowledge, it stays with you permanently. Fully, what I can say, password protected in your chittam, in your memory, right? And the other thing is about this knowledge, the more you use that knowledge, it doesn't get exhausted at all. Isn't it? Unlike money, suppose I have got a lot of money and I distribute that money to everybody, money in my pocket will get exhausted. But knowledge, even if I teach 100 people, 1,000 people, I will not get rid of that knowledge. It will not get exhausted. It will not that I give you the knowledge and then I forget it. That will not happen. In fact, there is a very beautiful Subhashitani in Sanskrit, which says, Na choraharyam, na rajaharyam, na bhratrubhajyam, na cha bharakari, vyaye krite vardhate eva nityam, vidyadhanam sarvadhanat pradhanam. It talks about the glories of knowledge, vidya, the wealth of vidya, vidyadhanam. Say vidyadhanam sarvadhanat pradhanam. This knowledge is the most exalted wealth. As compared to any other wealth, this wealth of knowledge is the most exalted. Why? He says, na choraharyam. A thief cannot steal this knowledge. Isn't it? Nobody can come and say, I'm going to steal your knowledge. He cannot do that. Nacha rajaharyam. A king or a government cannot tax this knowledge. They'll say, okay, you know all these things, so I will tax you. They cannot do that. So, na choraharyam, nacha raja, na choraharyam, nacha rajaharyam, na bhratrubhajyam. If your father has left you a big estate, that estate can be divided amongst the brothers or whoever is there in the will or whoever is eligible for that amongst the kin of the parents. It can be divided. But this knowledge cannot be divided like that. If I have a knowledge, I will have it myself. I cannot share that knowledge. I mean, share in the sense, if I got knowledge of 10 things, I cannot give, 3 things, one brother takes, another brother takes 3 things. I am left with knowledge of only 4 things. That doesn't happen. Right? Then he says, Nacha bharakari. Bharakari means this knowledge is not a burden also. The more you learn, in fact, you become lighter. So this knowledge is not a bharakari, it is not a cause for any burden. You can't say, oh, I got so much knowledge, I'm feeling very heavy. You don't say that. Right? Then it says, most importantly, Vyaye krite vardhate eva nityam. The more you actually share this knowledge, it goes on increasing. See, everything else when you share, it will go on decreasing. Knowledge, when you go on sharing, it goes on increasing. That is why I say, the best way to increase your knowledge is to teach. When I am teaching, I gain so much knowledge, which I did not have when I was learning. So teaching, according to me, is the best form of learning. Once, of course, you have got some knowledge and confident of sharing that knowledge with others, then everyone should start. Get hold of one student enough. Teach. It will help you to increase your knowledge. So that is the Vidyadhanam Sarvadhanat Pradhanam. Right. So any knowledge gives us happiness. And here it's a very subtle form of happiness. It is not a gross happiness that we talk about. For example, if we eat some sweets or something that we like, we get happiness. But that is a gross form of happiness. But with knowledge, the satisfaction we get a happiness which is a very subtle form of happiness. And that happiness can be shared with others also. If others are also of the same wavelength of intellect like you will have more happiness by sharing it with them. You know, I have discovered this. You will all be very happy to learn that. So this is the beauty of this knowledge. And this is the beauty of just knowledge. Can you imagine what happiness you get when you get the self-knowledge, knowledge of the self, which is very difficult to get? So when we get that knowledge of the self, it is a very, very subtle happiness, a very refined happiness. That's what we need to understand, right? And that refined happiness is what is referred to by Swami Paramarthananda as Vidyananda, right? And this knowledge of the self is more fulfilling than any other type of knowledge, because it is the knowledge about the most intimate thing, myself, isn't it? In fact, in I think Chandogya Upanishad says, Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Because of our greatest love we have for our own self, everything else becomes lovable by us. So when we get this knowledge of this self, you can imagine how much love will be generated because of that knowledge. It's love of the self. And when you have that highest degree of love for your own self, that gets reflected in the love for the entire world. That is what the Mahatmas do. The Mahapurushas, they have so much of happiness, so much of love. And that is why they advocate everybody. They love everybody. The Samatva Bhava comes there, right? So, once you get this knowledge, and which the scriptures say that you are the most wonderful creation in this entire universe. You don't know that. But when you know that, you will understand how you are the most wonderful creation. For that, you should know your real nature. Even by hearing that itself, our self-image will receive a big boost, isn't it? We'll think, oh, yeah, I am the most wonderful thing. Okay. Because now our self-image is in a very, very miserable state. What we take ourselves to be? We are very miserable, limited, alpajnaha, my knowledge is very limited. All these things we have got. And that is why constantly what we are trying to do in our life is to try to improve our self-image. That's what we do. And that is the business of all these beauty parlors, everybody. We go there and, get men also, men, women, everybody, to improve the self-image. Somebody is dark complexioned, he doesn't like his dark complexion, so he does so many things to become fair complexion. Why? He has a poor self-image and he wants to improve that self-image. It's a fact. Each one of us have got a very, very poor idea about our self-image. That is why if somebody calls you and say, I want to come and visit you, what will we say? We'll say, please call and come. Isn't it? We don't want to be surprised by somebody just knocking and coming when we are in a very, very homely state, rather domestic state. So if we know when somebody is coming to meet us, we will do some makeup and, groom our hair and wear a nice dress and all that. Because we know that we think that these are all going to improve my self-image. And the constant refrain is, what will others think of me? So I am doing all these things. Behind that question of what will others think of me is this poor self-image. So I want others to think good of me, so I am doing all these things. That is what we experience day in and day out. And the Shastra scriptures come around and say, hey, what are you talking about? You have got the best self-image in this entire creation. By hearing that itself, even though that may be true or not true at this stage, we don't know, right? By just hearing itself, our image gets a boost. I mean, even for example, this I have observed in many ladies especially. Don't mind. I mean, it's just general examples. It's nothing against ladies. A lady will wear a very nice sari and come in a party. When everybody, all other ladies, oh, what a beautiful sari you are wearing. Where did you get it? What a beautiful border. Oh my God, see the prints in that sari. Unique. When she hears that, can you imagine the self-image gets such a boost? I am wearing the most beautiful sari in this entire party. When for a sari we can get this kind of a boost of the self-image. Can you imagine when the Shastra tells you that you don't know what you are, and Shastra gives you Tvamasi, it tells you what? You are Nityam, eternal, but you are taking yourself to be mortal. You are immortal actually, you are eternal. Then it says you are Shuddha, pure, but you are taking yourself to be impure. Then Shastra says you are Buddha, you are enlightened. Already all knowledge is there in you, but you don't know that. So Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha. Then Shastra goes one step further. He says Mukta, you are already a free individual. You are Nitya Mukta hai, but you are taking yourself as bound. In a bondage, Janma Samsara Bandhanat, I am struck. This is what you are taking yourself to be. Your real self, you are Mukta hai, you are already free. This is what the scriptures say. Then it says you are Asanga hai, you are unattached. But you take all attachments to yourself and suffer in the process. Suffer all worries because of all these attachments, but your real nature is you are unattached, asanga. Then it says that most importantly, you are sarva gata, you are all pervading. You are everywhere. That is what you are. You are limiting yourself to time and space because of your ignorance of your real self. This is what the Shastra is telling us. And this is what is your Swarupa. This is your real nature. So when the Shastra tells all these things, whether they are true or not, it certainly we feel very nice. Oh, really? I was thinking I am bound in the samsara, but if I'm really free, nothing like it. Because my constant effort is to get free from all these problems. Any problem in my life I face, the moment I know the problem is going to come, I immediately am trying to get rid of that problem, get out of that situation. Isn't it? That's what we all do. We anticipate problem and we try to find solutions how to avoid that problem. So when Shastra says all these things, gives us a very great boost, great joy. So this is the second benefit of the self-knowledge, which is Vidyananda Prapti. The knowledge that I have the best image in this entire world. Right? What a nice thing to do. Right? And the third benefit, which Swami Paramatanda talks about, is Karpanya Nivrittihi. Karpanya Nivrittihi means freedom from desperation. And it is also known as Paratantra Nivrittihi, and there are other words also there. Karpanya Nivrittihi, Paravashya Nivrittihi. That means basically freedom from dependence. Everyone wants to be independent, right? What do we senior citizens always keep praying? Honestly, we say, oh God, even if I get old, please ensure my health in such a condition that I am not going to be dependent on anybody else. Is it not our prayer? Especially when we are getting older. We don't want to be dependent on anybody. We want to be independent always. And some old people, when they die, for example, 90 years, 92 years, they have led a very disciplined life. What we say, till the last moment, he was totally independent. He used to do everything by himself. Wash his own clothes, dry it. In fact, I know one person who was 96, when he died, he was 96 years old. And he used to ride a bicycle when he was just, 1 or 2 years, even before he died, he used to ride a bicycle. And when we hear such stories, how nice we feel, we also want to be like that, independent. Able to do everything that I'm doing now. I should be able to, till I die, I should be able to do that. So, this Karpanya Nivrittihi is freedom from any kind of dependence. And that is one of the benefits of this self-knowledge. So, Vidyananda that we get by the self-knowledge is a unique happiness that is available to us all the time. Unlike any other happiness in this world, which is bound by time and space, right? Because any other happiness, if you see, it lasts for some time. Some happiness may last for a longer time, some may be for a very short time. But it has an end. All happiness has an end. In fact, if you actually observe carefully, happiness is always followed by some misery or some sorrow. And that's why, in our homes and all that, especially our South Indian families, they say, don't be very, very happy. Something will befall on you. If you are laughing very loud and all that, they say, no, control yourself. Don't laugh so loudly because something will come and make you unhappy. So this happiness which we experience is always bound by time. But the happiness that we get from our knowledge, especially the knowledge of the self, because it can't go away at all, it always stays with us, it always remains with us. So that is a very long lasting happiness that we get by this Vidyananda Prapti. And we can see, for example, this happiness that we get from hearing the music. It lasts for some time. After the music is gone, that happiness is gone. Maybe it may have extend for some more time also. But there are so many conditions attached. First of all, the person who is singing should be singing well. Then only you will get happiness. If you know a little bit about music, you will immediately find out all the faults of the singer, assuming he is singing well. The sound instrument should be functioning well, isn't it? If the person is singing well, the sound instrument is giving all sorts of sounds and noises and all that, then also you will not get any happiness out of it. And most importantly, your hearing faculty should be good. If you have a problem with your hearing faculty, even though the music is good, singer is good, sound equipment is good, but you can't hear properly, you will not get the full happiness of enjoying that music. So many conditions are attached to our experiential happiness. None of this condition is attached to the happiness that we get from Vidya. There is no dependence on anything for that happiness. So what happens? That Vidyananda Prapti leads to this Karpanya Nivrittihi, this freedom from dependence. So that happiness is unqualified happiness, unconditioned happiness you get, right? And the experiential happiness we get also is there are finite, as I said, and also unpredictable. What gives me happiness may not give happiness to everybody else, isn't it? But this happiness which we get of knowledge, out of knowledge, is uniform. Everybody who gains this knowledge, whatever knowledge he has got curiosity about, he will definitely get that. It is not conditional upon any other state of affairs and all. It is only conditioned upon your intellect. You are able to understand what is being taught or what you are learning. So what happens is, whether we get this experiential happiness, the limited finite happiness, the conditioned happiness or not, this Vidyananda happiness that we get from this knowledge always stays with us and serves as a backup for us. So we are not dependent on all the events around us, people around us, situations around us and all for our happiness. Because we have a permanent source of happiness in the form of knowledge. And that freedom from this dependence on other sources for our happiness is what is called Karpanya Nivrittihi. So this Karpanya Nivrittihi is a standby, or Vidyananda is a standby for what? Vishayananda. In Shastra, the happiness that we get out of all these objects, people, situations in our life, what I describe as experiential happiness, that is called Vishayananda. Whereas the happiness that we get out of gaining knowledge is called Vidyananda. Vidyananda is permanent. Vishayananda is temporary. So Vidyananda is a standby for Vishayananda. Even if we don't get any happiness out of any of the experiences that we have, we still have the happiness because of knowledge, that Vidyananda, and that is what we call Karpanya Nivrittihi, freedom from dependence on any person, any situation, any object for giving us happiness. So this is the third benefit, which is Karpanya Nivritti, right? Reduction in the dependence upon the joy given by the worldly people, possessions, relatives, even, the king and government and all that, You have done so much, I'm not getting Padma Bhushan, Padma Shri and all. Many people have got this problem. And they try to influence so many people to get a Padma Shri. And when they get the Padma Shri, everybody will think that they have got Padma Shri because of their own effort or because of their accomplishment. But all those people who accomplish don't get Padma Shri. Only selected people get Padma Shri. So all this is a lot of things involved in that. Let's not go into that. So what happens is, it's a freedom from helplessness. Suppose you are not getting any happiness at all, but if you have this Vidyananda, you will not look forward for any happiness from worldly things at all. That is the Karpanya Nivrittihi we are talking about. So there is no stress or strain. Because in modern times, this is very, very important. Yeah, everybody talks about stress and strain only. These days, all stress management, this, that, and all that. Everywhere, seminars are organized. And in fact, those people who are organizing the seminars are the most stressed people. Because they will be stressed. Oh, I have organized a seminar. I should get enough number of people. I spent so much money. Big 5-star hotel I have booked. I have offered everybody lunch also, which is not less than some 5,000, 6,000 rupees a plate. I have offered that. Now I should get enough people to enroll for the seminar and pay the heavy fees that I am charging in order to meet my costs and also make a profit for myself. So the people who are conducting seminars on stress management are the most stressed people. And they are going to teach others how not to be stressed. Can you imagine the irony of the situation? Whereas, if you have the knowledge of the self, you are totally independent from all stress and strain. I don't depend on anybody for my happiness. Atmani eva atmana santushtaha. I am very happy with my own self, says Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. Right? So when you have the knowledge of the self and you abide in that self, greatest happiness is what you get in that self. So this is the third benefit. Karpanya Nivritti. The fourth benefit is Aghata Nivrittihi. It's an extension of this Karpanya Nivritti. Aghata means shock, trauma. So Aghata Nivritti is freedom from shock or trauma. Because you see, we all know that our life is not a bed of roses, isn't it? It's not always smooth sailing. A number of things do go according to our plans, but in spite of our best efforts, many things may not go according to our plan, what we want, right? So there are a lot of things which are out of our control and which are very painful experiences. Like this corona which is going on and on and on, not in our control. Whatever we can plan to avoid this corona, we have cases, they don't know how they got this infection, they are admitted to the hospital. Of course, many of them I know who have undergone, have got they have cured and have come back home and all that. But if you ask them, they say, I never moved out of my house. Nobody has come and met me. I don't know how I got this. Painful. So many things not under control at all, right? So life is a mixture of pleasurable and painful experiences. This nobody can deny. And what we would like to do always is to change the painful experiences, and we would like to work for it also, isn't it? So if electricity fails, we will get a generator. Or in offices and all, maybe a UPS also for certain computers and all that. We'll get a uninterrupted power supply equipment. We'll get. And if the temperature goes very high, we will get an air conditioner. If it's very cold, heater. We will work because all these are all making us uncomfortable. They are all causing some kind of a discomfort, displeasure in us. So we will work towards trying to escape that what you can call painful experience, right? If the local transport system is bad, we will buy a two-wheeler, or better still a four-wheeler. Again, trying to solve the painful experience of trying to travel by the local transport. But we know that in our life, there are many situations for which there is no solution. Bhagavan Krishna calls it apariharya, choiceless situations. We have no solution at all. You can't do anything about it. You just have to accept it. In fact, there are many diseases like that. You go to the doctors, they will tell you, this disease cannot be cured. What can be done is the pain can be somewhat managed with some medicines and things like that and all. But those medicines may have side effects. So one pain can be, one painful experience may be managed, but it may give rise to another painful experience, which we have all experienced now, especially when we grow old. So there are situations which cannot be managed, and we have to learn to live with those situations. And we have come across such cases, many pathological tests and all that, All tests are okay, but you still have a stomach pain. And doctor is not able to diagnose why you are having this stomach pain. He says all your reports are fine. I think there is a word for that. Idiopathic diseases, I think. Is that? That's how it is pronounced. Idiopathic or idiopathic, I don't know how it is. Some doctors are there in this class, so they may be able to correct me. They are diseases for which the cause is not known, but the pain continues. So such diseases, if we have to just accept it. We can't do anything about it. No treatment is possible. So what happens, and this experience we have with our relatives also, people around us, isn't it? The behavior of certain people cannot be changed. One of the biggest misconceptions we have in our life, especially married couple, is that we can change each other. And after 30 years, 35 years, 40 years, they realize that that is not possible. Then they start living very happily. Till such time, there is always a boxing match going on between the spouses. Not in all cases, but in many cases that I have come across. So, this, when you understand that you cannot change, what happens? Acceptance comes in. It's a choiceless situation. You just have to accept it. And this knowledge serves as a shock absorber. Because shock absorbers in the cars and all we see, we don't require a shock absorber when the roads are smooth. But when the roads are rough, when the car is going through, all these kind of potholes and things like that and all, in order to not hurt your physical body, you have a shock absorber in the car. So the shock absorber prevents physical hurt, physical painful experience in a journey. This self-knowledge prevents mental painful experience by acting as a shock absorber for all your painful experiences in your life. So that it does not guarantee that the painful experiences will not come. They will come. That is what life is about. But when the painful experiences come, when the car will go into a pothole, this self-knowledge shock absorber, when the mind, gets a traumatic experience, the shock absorber in the form of the self-knowledge will be able to absorb that shock and keep the mind in proper spiritual mental condition. So this self-knowledge, you can take it as a shock absorber for our mind and intellect. It's already time. I will continue in the next class, because it's very important to understand why we should get this self-knowledge and why you all should come to Tattva Bodha class for that purpose. Right? We'll continue. I'll say the prayers. Any questions? Then I will take. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you all very much. Any questions?
Raghuji,
Thank you so much, Guruji.
I have a question, Raghuji.
Yes.
You chanted a verse, Atmanastu Kamaya from Chandogya. Could you complete it? I forgot. Atmanastu Kamaya.
Sarvam Priyam Bhavati. It is, I think, Yajnavalkya is telling.
It is Brihadaranyaka, right?
Huh?
It is Brihadaranyaka. That's what.
Maybe Brihadaranyaka. As I told you, I was not very sure whether it is Chandogya or Brihadaranyaka. Because I started teaching those Upanishads. Only when
That's what I wanted.
I will be very sure.
I wanted to inquire because I am studying that Swamiji's talks and I
It could be
remember.
Brihadaranyaka. I mean, because there's a lot of similarities in the in the characters in Brihadaranyaka and also in Chandogya. So it could be Brihadaranyaka.
I know. Yeah, I studied that.
What is important?
That was a Yajnavalkya to Maitreyi.
Yajnavalkya, that much I remember. And what is important is to understand this, that the person, somebody tells you, oh, I love you so much and all that, don't believe. Because nobody loves anybody else more than they love themselves. That is what the scriptures are saying.
And also one more question.
Because of the love for oneself.
Yeah. And one more question. Can you define samsara? I mean, I know samsara is raga, shoka, moha, according to Bhagavad Gita. But what is the single definition of samsara? How do you? It is not married life.
You didn't attend Vishnu Sahasranamam last class?
I did, but did you take that? That's what I remember. I don't know which class I attended.
I dealt with samsara, different definitions of samsara. A simple definition, what Pujya Swamiji talks as, it's called Bhavaroga and life of becoming. Which is
okay, yes. Now
Swamiji's definition is. You are
life of becoming.
Life of becoming.
Yes, I remember. See, like you said, I know I heard somewhere, but I don't know from whom I heard. I just totally remember. Thank you. Yes, now I know.
It is very, very pet subject. Samsara is his life of becoming. Today you are something, you are unacceptable to yourself, so you want to become something else other than what you are. And this is the whole struggle you do. That is what is samsara, he says. But then in the recent talks which Swami Paramarthananda gave, he gave a very more involved definition. Samsara starts with self-ignorance, which is an intellectual problem. And that intellectual problem converts itself into an emotional problem. Of course, I dealt with that in detail in the Vishnu Sahasranamam class.
I forgot. I'm sorry. I remember now that you.
I think I'm not posted that video, which I will do tonight. You can.
Oh, you have not. But yeah, I remember hearing it, life of becoming, but I couldn't recall it. Thank you for explaining. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Okay.
Life of becoming. Bhavaroga. Bhava means becoming. So he translates Bhavaroga is life of becoming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Namaskara.
Question? Somebody else speak. No?
Thank you very much, Raghuji. Thank you for the IM.
Okay. If there are no other questions.
Guruji?
Yeah.
Guruji, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Please go ahead. Now there is a breaking of your voice. Earlier I was able to hear you, but your voice is breaking now. Was that Narayanan who was speaking? I think he has something wrong with his network. Doesn't matter if you people have got questions, you can note it down. The next class you can ask the same question. Not a problem.
Raghuji, I want to tell you, I just checked my notes and I have written, Samsara is life of becoming. I just checked my notes.
Good.
It remained in the notes. It didn't get to my mind.
Right. Yes, Mr. Narayanan, are you back? I think his network is not working. Last week also he had a problem with the network. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Thank you, Raghuji.
If there are no other questions, we will end. Huh? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll see you next Saturday. Hari Om.
Thank you.